So The Naked Gun, the new Naked Gun, starring Liam Neeson, it's very much what the Naked Gun movies should be, which is just, a fast-paced spoof movie. Because, like, it'd be easy to criticize this film for just saying that, oh, well, it did what all the other films did, which is, it has the same plot, it's Frank Drebin, the police detective who breaks all the rules. He uncovers a scheme, he falls in love, and he saves the day, and it's just jokes in between. But that's fine, because that was pretty much what all the Naked Gun films were, but it didn't matter because all the jokes were so quick and so fast that it's hard to review those types of films because you're laughing so much. And I guess like the best way to review them is to review just how many big laughs you get out of how quick these jokes are, because they're fast. Like, it's wordplay, it's visual jokes, it's absurd dialogue, it's silliness in the background, ridiculous slapstick, all this cartoonish, ridiculous, absurd, just dumb, stupid fun. And you kind of just gotta measure by how quickly it is. So, director Akiva Schaffer, who takes over this long dormant spoof franchise, basically understands that job. Like, like the Naked Gun films, they're a machine gun. You pick them up, you pick it up and you fire as quickly as many jokes as you can to get as many laughs as you can get out of the audience. And on that level, the film really works. It really, really understands what made these movies so much fun. So, and I think it helps that what really has to sell this film, I think, is that you have to have a dry actor who can just step into this role and just be naturally funny, where they can just say lines, very funny lines straight and get a laugh. That was what made Leslie Nielsen so great as Frank Drebin. That's what made Charlie Sheen so great in Hot Shots. You need that type of actor, and Liam Neeson is perfect for this role. Like, if you need proof that he's right for the role of Frank Drebin, you need only look to like his role in Ted, where he was questioning, if he could buy like the trick cereal and was worried about if he was going to get in trouble because it was meant for kids. It's like very silly, stupid dialogue, and he plays it straight and he gets laughs easily. So he was perfect for this, and sure enough, he's given a whole bunch of ridiculous lines that he has to say here, and mistaken wordplay, just silly stuff, and just talking about how cool it is to kill, and just being dumb and just playing it straight and getting laughs just like so easily, that the few times where he actually is trying to be a little bit sillier, it was refreshing, because like, he can play this straight for laughs, but to have him like being thrown into like these more ridiculous situations where he does have to make a fool out of himself, that's what works for this type of story. Because like the story itself, I doubt it's going to be much interest for anybody. Like I said, it's the same formula here. Like in this film, he has to stop this, this tech mogul of Richard Kane, played by Danny Houston, from this big scheme that's going to, devastate the world and only work out for like a bunch of billionaires. I will say this though, I like how they play up this tech bro villain as someone who believes himself to be manly and how he wants to make the world for more powerful men, and then gets humiliated by the end. I thought that was a lot of fun. Like it does play into like the great spoof angle as well. But also, real surprise here was how well Pamela Anderson comes into this film as the femme fatale, basically taking over, kind of the role that Jane had in the original Naked Gun film. She's not playing Jane, though. She's playing Beth Davenport, and I'm kind of glad that she's not quite the same as Jane. Like she does fulfill the same role, and I was surprised actually how Anderson kind of matched a lot of the cadence that Presley had before when she was in the role, and she makes it work. She makes it work between being kind of more like Jane, but also stepping more into like the classic role of like the noir femme fatale, where she's first seen where she wanders into the policeman's office, and she's grieving over her loss, and she comes to Frank and she falls in love, and then and like I said, much like Neeson, not afraid to look goofy and dumb. There's a great scene where she has to improvise by doing scat jazz, and she's just awful at it. And it's just fun watching these actors being willing to look stupid and humiliate themselves while also playing their roles straight, and just, not trying to wink at the camera, not trying to smirk at their own jokes, and not trying to like, improvise that much, just like sticking to the material and, you know, just letting the gags play out and just delivering a performance that sells you on how ridiculous they are. And then, you know, you have the other, like, straight, you know, the straight-faced actors who are mostly there to raise eyebrows at Frank. So you have Paul Walter Hauser stepping into the role as Ed. He's fine, like, he's believable as a cop in this role, and he basically does what you expect him to do, which is, you know, stick up for Frank, inform him on stuff, you know, occasionally say something dumb, but mostly just, you know, feed Frank lines. And I was actually kind of surprised how much mileage they got out of CCH Pounder as the, you know, as basically the angry police chief who basically chews out Drebin for most of the film. She has a few funny moments here in addition to just, you know, being angry at Frank. So she's very much in her element here. And then you have some very natural cameos that are not like winking at the screen. They are playing them up pretty well here. So you have like Cody Rhodes, Busta Rhymes, and of course, sticking with the tradition here, Weird Al Yankovic is once again playing himself. And I think this actually makes him the only reoccurring actor in every single Naked Gun film now. So that's one thing to look forward to. So a lot of the jokes, they mostly work here. And I think more towards the middle of the film is where I started laughing the most. And I think that's just because there's a lot of, like, room to, you know, have, like, lots of ridiculous stuff happen. Mostly because that's where you get, like, the, you know, the standard, like, montage of romance between Frank and Beth here. And it's wonderfully absurd. I love how they play it up. There's this whole subplot involving a snowman that I don't really want to reveal here. There's a great scene where Frank is getting framed. There's and then just like, I mean, yeah, like there's lots of great like little bits that they go through there, but also just like another thing that I love about these types of spoof movies is the background gags, just the little things in the background that you take notice of, and that they add little jokes in you know, just shoved into the back there, which you are meant to see, but you only see it for like a few seconds, and then you're on to like the next joke. And there are a few of those aspects here. Like I like how they have the big climax at this giant arena, and it's called ponzischeme.com arena, you know, meant to make fun of cryptocurrency. Great little joke there. And they don't really have to like point it out much. It's just like, it's there, you see it, you get it, and then you're on to the next joke, which is great, because that's the key to Naked Gun. You need to move fast. You need to get one good joke in, then get to the next one, then get to the next one, quicker and quicker and quicker. And I love how just, you know, that aspect, that, you know, faith in that formula, that leads to one of the most fun things to happen with watching a comedy in the theater, which is you're watching with the crowd and everybody's laughing so hard that you're almost like struggling to listen to the dialogue and keep up with every single joke that comes at the screen. I've had this happen with a lot of comedies in the past, but this is probably the first time in a long time where I've, you know, been struggling to not laugh and catch every joke. I mean, the last time I could think I laughed this much was with the movie Moonfall, but that wasn't trying to be a comedy. So, you know, to actually have like an intentional comedy that has that many laughs was just wonderful to have there. Another aspect too that I think makes this film work is that it has enough faith that it doesn't rely on references or callbacks as much to the Naked Gun films. There are a few in the beginning, but I think they're fairly quick, where they're not commenting so much on like, you know, I'm worried that I'm not going to be as good, or, you know, paying tribute to Leslie Nielsen. There's only like a few of those aspects there. And I was actually kind of curious to see like if they would play with more of the aspects of the formula, but they don't really explore that as much. Like they don't really do a lot with having like, you know, a replacement for like you know, the O.J. Simpson character of Nordberg. It's mostly just a one joke bit. I was also kind of surprised they didn't have more jokes about the technology that Frank is given. Because I always love those bits, because like the scientist would show him all these like James Bond gadgets, and Frank would always like, you know, like drink a urine sample or accidentally use one or break something. And I wanted more of that. There is one scene where they do that, but it's only with one gadget. And I kind of wish there was more of that. And I think that's kind of like one way to look at that film to look at this film is that it has a lot of great jokes, but I wish like there was a little bit more of them. Like it does check all the boxes. I just wish it spent a little bit more time on some of the jokes that work here. That being said, I do like how there's a subtle nature to how they pay tribute to some aspects of the original film. Like at one point, if you look in the background when I think Frank is entering a club, there's a stuffed beaver, which of course, you know, if you're familiar with the Naked Gun films, that was part of like a very simplistic, sex joke in the first film. So it's very briefly shown, and it's not like zoomed in on or winked at. It's just like it's there, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, nice joke, and it's not reliant on that because there's other jokes to get to. There's physical comedy, there's Frank mispronouncing words like manslaughter. There's jokes about him pooping himself. Not to mention the sex jokes in this. The sex jokes between Frank and Beth here we're so wonderful, like, and it's a lot of the expected type of sex jokes from these type of spoofs. It's just you've probably seen some of these in the trailers. There's like the weird perspective of heat vision. There's a weird like threesome scene, which is pretty funny. The way they kiss is ridiculous. So just having that faith to go into that formula, while making the story like a little bit more modern with the setting, but still having fun with aspects of the character instead of just keeping it like strictly like the Naked Gun films. Like they do actually try to switch it up, change it, basically spoof like more modern action cop movies, and it really works. Like there's no other way to describe this film other than just counting up like the laughs here and explaining the jokes, which I kind of don't want to do because that's like a major spoiler, because I technically could go through every joke here, but there's like hundreds here. And the good news, I guess, is that pretty much all of them work. Like the accuracy of like how many great laughs and hits they have with like how quickly the jokes are thrown out here is high. It's really high, and the jokes just continue right up to the very end. Like even in like the credits, there's like tons of jokes just littered in the credits that make it worth sticking around for. Not just because there's an after credit scene, and just because there's like a joke song that goes on in there. Just all the wonderful little aspects of just making like a great spoof movie akin to like The Naked Gun and Hot Shots and Top Secret. Akiva, he just nails it here. He makes this comedy work, and it doesn't surprise me too much too, because he's worked on stuff like Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, which is another great spoof movie. So great talent assembled here, and they worked surprisingly well. Like Neeson I expected to do great, but Pamela Anderson was a bit of a surprise here. Not to mention Paul Walter Hauser. He's doing great here. He sticks firmly in his lane. He's not trying too hard for jokes here, but he doesn't have to. So I guess there's only like a few minor criticisms I have of the film. I mean, I think for some people a big criticism might be, yes, it's the same as the first Naked Gun film, but yeah, so was the second one and the third one. And at that point it's just, are the jokes still good? And like the second one, there weren't as many great jokes, but then the third film actually nailed it. And this fourth film, I think is up there. It's like one of my favorite spoof movies among like, Naked Gun 33 and a Third, I think is maybe my favorite Naked Gun film. And this film is probably just about on the same level as that in terms of like how many jokes there are and how clever they are. Because just, oh God, it was so much fun just to laugh at this film. Like I'm kind of struggling at this point just to like find synonyms for it being funny. So I guess I'll just close by saying that I'll basically fall back on some adverbs here and just say that yes, the new Naked Gun for 2025 is very, 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 very funny. It's a very funny film. I laughed a lot, and it's definitely up there with the best spoof movies ever made. So yeah, I adored The Naked Gun.